All right, so sanding is, it's one of those things that's absolutely boring to watch. But I'll sand all this down to 150, and then think about maybe going to 220. But I'm gonna put some color on this. I make sure I get the edges. You want to round corners. You want to get all those spots, and especially if you're going to put any kind of clear coat on it. And then the roofs, I actually like to put a pattern like that on there, and then when it gets clear coated or stained, whatever you're going to use for your finish, it really pops. You can use a torch and burn this, and it adds some more color to it. But the important thing is to get all these corners. I sand them not so much for the exterior being outside, but I sand them for when people get a hold of these things and they're hanging them, or they're trying to hold them up while they're mounting them, or if they're carrying away them from the market where they buy them from me. I don't want anyone getting any splinters or anything, so I remove everything that's rough or sharp. Same thing on the back. And so once that's done, we'll go ahead and stain them up. All right, so one thing I forgot to do was put my logo on this. So sometimes you forget steps, so you got to improvise. So I made a little small wafer thin logo, and I'm gonna tuck it up here dead center, and do some CA glue, which works really good. So I like the medium CA glue because it has a better viscosity. The problem with it is it always clogs the tip, so in the interest of time, not taking a syringe needle and poking through. I'm going to spread this around the back of this, and because it's super thin, I want to make sure I cover the whole piece so I don't get any lift up. And they make if you use a lot of super glue or cyanoacrylate glue, they make a release agent. So if you stick your fingers together, making fishing lures, that's been once or twice occurrence it's happened to me. It's happening right now a little bit, but they make this cool release agent. It's worth keeping a bottle. You don't use it very often, but it's cool. And then you want to hit an activator on there. I like it in the pump bottle rather than the aerosol because I don't really want to breathe it. But once you get it, you want to make it sure it's right side up. I'm going to center it with the bat's head here. Drop it up and hold it down. And the activator is really fast. It'll create that two-part bond, and it's already done. It sucks it right in. This is maple that I used, and put that on the laser and did a logo, and it says handcrafted by Shift Colors Baitworks. But I usually put it on the back of the box, and I do it on the back of on the back piece, so it's just there so people know who made it if they want to order another one or tell a friend. But it looks cool up front too. So. And then when I stain it, the stain will suck into this, and it'll actually make a nice blended in look. All right, so my next tip is wood finish. You can buy stain, you can buy clear coat. I'm just staining these. Some people want them just natural, which is cool. I kind of like them just natural and let the weather age it, but it will gray out. But like we talked about in the very beginning, bathouses are very color specific for the amount of heat they generate. So I'm using a natural. The tip I'll give you is you can go to a big box store or order online and order a can of this stuff for 20 bucks or 25 bucks or something. But what I've found is if you go to estate sales or local yard sales, there's always stain, there's always paint, and a lot of times the estate sale dealers, they don't want to take the stuff to the dump if no one buys it or deal with hazmat. So it might just be half a can, but it lasts an incredibly long time, and I'll get it for like 50 cents for a whole can, or I'll get it for free sometimes. Once in a while you pay $1 or $2, but it's just worth, it really is worth being frugal and wise with your money when you do woodwork, and projects can become incredibly expensive. Price of wood's really high, and then the machinery that you use, you gotta factor in a lot of expense you have that goes into this. And then you have other people that are competing with you, and factory driven stuff that, you know, their quality's not always as good, and they're selling it for cents on the dollar. But when you make something handmade and it's large and it's thick wood, people appreciate it, and they pay you what it's a fair price for it. So pricing's a whole other topic we can talk about in the future. All right, so with stain, you can wear gloves for your personal protection. Depends what you're using. Definitely respiratory protection if you're spraying anything or you're using any kind of chemicals that have VOCs. I make sure I'm in a good ventilated area outside. I like to use a brush. Some people use rags and foam, but we're gonna put this on and take a look at what kind of color we get here. So I'm kind of doing this intentionally. I'm gonna put this is a natural one. I'm not super pleased with it being as light as this, but that's an easy fix, especially when you have yard sale stain cans and about 20 of them that are different tones and colors. What I don't want to do is make it real dark. This might be all right for in the Florida setting. If you're hitting the end grain here, it soaks it in incredibly fast, and it requires some extra coats. I like to get in the vent holes, try to get in as best as I can on here. But you can see that maple's already turning a subtle brown, just getting hit with this. So that's a light brown. It'd probably be all right. I think I'm gonna take a look and be right back. I'm gonna see if I have one shade a little bit higher. I think I'd like to get it a tad bit darker. All right, we got a darker brown here. So when you're putting the stain on, again, the end grain's gonna soak it right up. Spread it evenly, get in your vent holes so you don't see the white. You never put a finish on the interior of any wildlife house because you don't want any toxicity for them. You lay this on and then you give it a little bit to soak in. And again, the end grain, because these are butt joints, that you're going to get a darker color on the end grain, and that's just the way it is, you know. But then you want to take a rag and you want to wipe it off, and that's a pretty good brown. I'm pretty satisfied with that color brown. I think it'll be just right for not too dark, but it'll also be dark enough to absorb a lot of the daytime sunlight. And these bathhouses need to be absolutely put. It really shouldn't mount them on a tree because the tree's going to provide too much shade, and then the bat house doesn't get warm enough, and those bats need to stay warm, so their metabolism requires them to have an environment of, don't quote me, you can look this up on a lot of the bat websites, but I know the bottom number is 85 degrees, and I want to say you really don't want to go over 100 degrees. So if the bat house is cranking up to over 100, it's too hot for them, and guess what? They're gonna take off. They're not gonna use the house. So not being too aggressive with your color is really important, and location of where you put the house is key. So on a pole, I would say the majority of outhouses are on poles or posts, and they're 15 feet to 20 foot in the air, and usually a pretty open area where that sun's going to hit for the majority of the day, front and back. if you have two bathhouses, which most people want to have back-to-back bathhouses and provide more of an environment for the bats, that's a great idea too. But you're gonna lose the direct sun hitting the backs of the house. But that could be a good thing because it provides the cooling areas. So when it gets too hot, then they'll move to the cooler chambers. But it actually is, it looks dark, but when you let it soak in and then start rubbing it off, you can see where you got some saw marks and some stuff. But that's about the right color. I think it might be a tad bit dark, but I think that's fine. I'm not going to put any clear coat or any kind of water repellent sealant on the outside of this because it's cypress, and cypress is, this thing will be up for 30 years. It just doesn't rot, and it's super weather-proof, and bugs don't like the sap, just like red cedar. Bugs, they like the bark, and they like to get into a little bit of the sapwood, but not much. So anyway, that's the staining process, and hope you learned a few things.